Mr. Kipp Sorensen. Oh my goodness. Can you believe that we're actually doing an Ask Me Anything together? A co-hosted Ask Me Anything with two people. Wild.
Yeah. The people are like, oh, that's right. They used to do these together. Yeah.
That's right.
I remember now.
Yeah. And it sounds like you're going to ease your way into it with your low quality microphone or headset or whatever you got there. You know, I invested
in a corner of a room somewhere,
thousands and thousands of dollars into you, Kipp, and making sure that we can make you sound as good as possible. But apparently my gifts aren't good enough for you to use. What's up with that?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm on holiday. I grabbed stuff from the office from the recording studio, and then I rushed, and I soon in the box with the mic was the mic cable. So I have all the gear, no mic cable. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, well, that's not going to work. I guess I could have held it up like this to pretend that I'm using it, but
yeah, you could have done that, but I don't think anybody would have been fooled. No, you know, the brief conversation that we had last week before our AMA was my favorite. You're like, you sounded so tight. I don't know if you just woke up or you were in vacation mode. You don't even remember so you were hungover or something, maybe.
I'm trying to remember.
Oh, no, I called you. I'm like, hey, are we doing this? And you're like, I don't know. What day of the week is it? I can't remember what's happening.
And we're sharing this story just so you guys don't think that we're perfect. Here's the reality. It was a Friday morning, July 5th, right? I'm at the lake. I've checked out. Like,
yes, I get it.
I am checked out, and I get a call from Ryan. I'm like, something must be going on. I don't get calls from this guy very often. I answer, and he's like, are we doing this recording? I'm like, I'm not, because I'm in a trailer out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
It was all good. Man.
I think I handled it okay in your absence.
I'm sure you did. And
we continue to get requests.
Just give you some feedback. Yeah,
please do. And then, and of course, as always, we had people reach out who want to co-host. So we've got like a list of people who could co-host with either one of us moving forward.
Yeah, I appreciate all you guys jumping on board. You're like, oh, Kipp's dropping the ball. Opportunity presents itself.
Happy to step in.
You know, if you ever need a co-host that's reliable, you let me know.
All right, guys. Well, if you're new to the podcast, we're going to be fielding your questions. Biggest thing that I could get from you guys right now is just making sure that you're supporting what we're doing in whatever means necessary. So that's sharing the podcast, taking a screenshot, commenting, liking, subscribing, leaving a rating review, supporting us in the store, joining us in the Iron Council Brotherhood. All of this goes a long way, especially in the wake of, there's some things in place right now, especially in the social media world, that they aren't real too thrilled and excited or approving of what it is we're talking about. So we counter that by sharing it. Please, guys, keep sharing it, keep putting out the good word, and we're going to keep driving on. That's all we're going to do.
I still can't tag you on Instagram.
I know, it's crazy. So it is what it is. I'm not going to complain today. I'm just going to say, hey, let's throw our weight around a little bit and support where you can, especially if you've gotten any value out of this before. But other than that, let's get to some questions today.
Well, I'll go into the first question, mostly because it's a little bit of a banter, but Anthony Severino, thoughts on UFC 264? I'm assuming you watched that over the weekend.
Yeah, I did watch it. Yeah. I mean, the fight that really actually stands out of all there was a great card. You had Sugar Sean, who just put on an absolute clinic. I don't know who he fought. I can't remember the guy's name, the guy with the green hair, but man, that guy would not go down.
Dude, mad respect for that kid. Last minute call, I believe that he was brought in.
Yeah, like card. 7 days or 11 days
Walking
or something.
Zombie. He was just man. I am not giving up.
Wild.
It was.
I don't know. I was kind of upset with Herb Dean stopping that fight with, I think, less than 20 seconds left. I'm like, let the kid finish the fight, man.
Yeah.
I mean, he was getting pounded right there at the end. He may have gotten knocked down or knocked out at the end, but let the kid finish hearing that.
Yeah. Agreed.
So that was cool. And then watching Greg Hardy get smashed in the teeth and just lights go out, man, that was wild. Did you see that fight?
Yeah.
That was wild. Fight. And then you have, I don't follow too closely. I can't remember the guy that he fought, but very, very unassuming, right? Not a typical body type of, these hardened athletes that you would think of. And for him to come in and just crack Hardy in the face and just one punch knockout was
bang,
wild.
Bang.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And then of course you got the Conor fight, where look, there's a lot of, here's what I'll say about the fight. I think he probably did some damage to his leg because before when he was doing those kicks, I think one probably got checked.
Your leg doesn't snap from rotation of throwing a straight right.
Right. Exactly.
Period. I don't care who you are. It just doesn't break. Yeah.
And he was getting pummeled. There's no doubt about that. That might've been a 10-8 round. Like he was getting throttled. I was just super unimpressed with his post-fight interview. And look, he's got a broken leg. He's disappointed. He's still sitting in the ring. He's obviously banged up. So we have to afford some grace and maybe understanding there. But I'm like, man, I was really disappointed. I was hoping that because usually in a loss, Conor McGregor, even when he loses, he does it with some class, I would say, some tact and class. Not so much leading up to the fight, but after it, he's always been, true. Hey, I got beat up. It wasn't my night, and he did good, and I'll be back. And God, it wasn't like that. I was disappointed in that personally, but we'll see.
Yeah, he's taking it too far, right? Like it's one thing to talk crap, but you start bringing family into it. That's a whole other bag. It's bad class. Yeah.
Yeah. Dustin Poirier, man, he had a great round, and it was clear that he was ready for that fight. And there was a lot, I think, look, I don't want to, armchair quarterback. I don't know, but Conor McGregor looked pissed. He didn't look composed. Even as he came out in the fight, he just looked pissed. He didn't look like himself. And Poirier was there to do the job, and he got the job done. Whether you agree with like how it went down and what happened or not, like Poirier was winning that fight, of course.
Yeah. I think we can all agree we would have loved some more rounds.
Absolutely. Sure. And it would have went another round for sure.
Yeah. No one wants to have the fight go that way. It's not good for Conor's career. And it's not good for the fans either, right? Like you want to see a good fight, and you want to see guys bang, and it would have been nice to get another round in at least.
I don't know. Maybe I agree. But actually maybe it is good for Conor's career because he was getting beat up. And if he would have got beat up for another round and just demolished the way he was getting demolished in the first round, everybody would have kind of just wrote him off. And now if he recovers and he comes back, that's an interesting story right there. So could have been a rough situation, but have a silver lining. My friend Sean Whalen had a really good post. Actually, two people had great posts a lot of people talked about it, but Sean Whalen talked about the biggest fight being in the 6 inches between a man's, ears. He had a good perspective on it that you should go check out. And then Tim Grover actually had a really good perspective on it about winning. And I'll surmise here, he basically said that the reason Conor's not winning is because he's acting like he's winning. He's not going to that dark place of not winning, of losing. And so he's not doing what needs to be done. Again, a little bit of armchair quarterback stuff, but coming from Tim Grover, who's coached the most elite athletes in the world, he gets a little more credibility in my book.
Yeah. Well, and Tim Grover, I've never read his winning book.
It's
after
awesome.
That post, here's the perfect example of sales right here. After that post, I added winning and just purchased it on Audible.
Yeah. It's a great book.
After I read his post, I was like, it's a really valid point. I want to read that book. So,
and people are probably, unless you know him, he might rub you the wrong way. And the things that he says are somewhat counterintuitive. But it's very, very insightful, and it causes you to think. And so if you haven't read the book, or at a minimum, listen to the podcast I did with him about 3 or so weeks ago, go back and listen. Fascinating individual. Has had some tremendous success for himself and also the athletes he coaches. So when he talks about performance with athletes, I'm going to pay attention.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. All right. Let's get in some legit questions. Steven Zeller. I sometimes have too many things I want to do that I deem important for both my personal life and business, that I have to prioritize and postpone some things. I think this is pretty normal, but I struggle with the prioritization process. Any tips on how to get clear mind and prioritize things in the best order? Is there a process or a method you use to do this?
Yeah, it's called the battle plan. But let's get something deeper. Yeah, this is normal. And I've told my kids that sometimes when you have to make a choice, you have a choice between two shitty options and you have to choose one and they're both kind of crappy. And sometimes in life you have to make a choice and both options are actually very good.
Yeah. Good, better, best. Yeah.
Right. So then you have to make a choice and that means you have to let something go in order to move forward with this choice that you end up deciding on. So this is natural. This is the way it goes. But you got to take a step back and realize number one is the mindset of I can't do it all. You have to acknowledge that. You have to recognize that. And you have to operate in that mentality. And you said it very well, good, better, best. So you're looking at your scenarios, you're looking at what opportunities you have, and you have to know that, hey, I can't do everything, but I am going to go all in on the things that I am going to choose and select to do. Then once your DAC is stacked, say that again.
Your deck is stacked.
Not your DAC is stacked, but your deck is stacked. Then you have to ask yourself, if I'm going to put something else in here, what is going to give? Most people don't do that. They're like, oh yeah, I got some time to do that. I can do that too. Right. What's the cost? So
what's the cost?
There's a difference even between price and cost. Price is just the price tag. Like this pen cost me, the price of it was, 50 cents or whatever. But the cost of having a pen is, well, it's negative actually, because I can write with this, I can take notes, I can journal. And so the cost is different than the actual price tag, but everything has a cost. Something's going to have to give. And unless you're willing to acknowledge that something has to go away, then you're just going to keep putting stuff on your plate and things are going to get diminished. Your performance is going to be reduced. And frankly, you're going to be looked at less favorably from other people that you have obligations and responsibilities to. Your workers, your employees, your employer, your clients, your wife, your kids, they're going to look at you less favorably because you're not getting stuff done. So mindset number one. Number two is you need to know what you want. And if I were to ask Stephen in this case, what do you want? It would be my hope that he could answer that with pinpoint accuracy. Not, hey, I want to make more money. I want to have better sex. I want to lose some weight. I'm talking about pinpoint accuracy. I want to make X amount of dollars in the next 30 days. I want to lose 20 pounds in the next 30 days. In 60 days, I want to be ready to run my marathon. I want to have good sex, but I want to have sex 3 times a week. And here's how I'm going to make sure we get to that point, instigate and seduce her and woo her over in this way. So you're very specific. And if I ask 100 guys, what do you want? Most of them will say, yeah, I want to be happy. I want to have some cool experiences. Welcome to the club. We all want that. So you got to get specific. Now, once you're specific with what you want, then you get to reverse engineer and ask yourself, here's this opportunity that has presented itself. For example, I shared with you an opportunity that you and I have to partake on later this year. And you can take that opportunity and you can measure it against the vision you have for yourself, the specific objectives that you've created. And you can ask yourself, is this going to move me in that direction? If the answer is yes, you need to consider it. Still, things might need to go, but you need to consider it. If the answer is no, table it for now. It doesn't mean an indefinite no. It means that is not a priority right now. And a lot of guys have a very difficult time making decisions because they don't have any framework for which to measure their decisions against. So mindset, pinpoint accuracy on what you're out to accomplish, understand the cost, and there is a cost with everything, and make your decisions and let them be 100% yes. And the no's are 100% no. Don't get into this fear of missing out thing. Hey, you took advantage of this opportunity. Good. Go all in and make it work.
Let me share a folly that I have when I do this stuff, Ryan, and see if this would make it on your list. I have a tendency to even say yes to it. And I'll even get clear on the cost, but I go in not 100%. I don't give that thing my all. And so then because I don't want to give up something else, right? And so my determination is like, well, I won't give that up, but then I'm not fully in it either. right? And I might compromise the quality of the work that I'm doing, or I may not like be all in, you know what I mean? And kind of half-ass it because I'm not like, I'm out of integrity with my commitment to that item.
You're also going to let people down. And that's something that I'm not interested in doing. I'll give you an example. I have a friend of mine, close friend of mine, reached out a couple of months ago and he wants to develop an app. He's got a very cool idea for an app and it sounds very intriguing. And at first I was like, yeah, I'm all in. And now I'm kind of thinking, you know, if I do this, this is going to have to give. That's not really in my wheelhouse. I have other goals and ambitions and desires. And so it's a no for me. And it's unfortunate because I would really like to work with this individual in this capacity. And I would really like to pursue this opportunity, but also I know what I want. And I don't want to go half in on things. I don't, what does Ron Swanson say? Don't half-ass two things, whole ass one thing. Right. So you know, give it all you got in the things that you can. And look, if you evaluate it down the road and realize that, oh, this pursuit that I'm on here isn't as meaningful as I thought it was, well, you can always pivot. Yeah. You can always change courses and change directions. And people will say, well, that opportunity will be gone. It might, but other opportunities will present themselves. There's an infinite number of things you can do throughout your lifetime.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I think that more opportunities will present themselves based upon how we show up with the things that we're dealing with, probably more so than just trying to take advantage of every opportunity that shows up. Yes. Agreed. Okay. Interesting. All right. Peter Zeffo, how do you battle plan for a day when you're on vacation? Do you still time block even if it's beach 8 to 11 a.m.? I'll answer this question. Peter, you just forget everything. Obviously, that's what Kipp does. You don't bring equipment. You don't even open your calendar. That's what I do. That's my recommendation. My recommendation is not all that different. It's you can let go of things. It's okay. Yeah. You can set some things down every once in a while. It's like weightlifting. You don't just pick up your deadlift and hold it forever for an hour while you're waiting. No, you pick it up and then you set it down and you recover. And then you pick it back up and you hold it and then you set it down and recover. That's the process of getting stronger. Life is the same way. We've got a lot of things to shoulder. We've got responsibilities as a father, husbands, business owners, leaders in our community, friends, et cetera, et cetera. And those are burdens. Those are things that we have to carry and they have meaning with them. And I value having responsibility and being capable of shouldering the load, but it also needs to be put down from time to time. So I don't get into the time blocking thing when I'm on vacation. That seems a little counterintuitive to me. I used to be a guy that needed every little element of my vacation planned out and where are we going when and what time and what event and what activity. And this vacation that my family and I took in Hawaii last month was not that at all. It was, I'm here, I'm present. If we want to go to the beach today or a luau tomorrow or this today. And then I had an opportunity to go hunt one afternoon that I didn't know would present itself. And I did. And it wasn't like time blocking. Now, what I will say is that our responsibilities don't go away just because we want to go on vacation and put something down, right? Yeah. Things still need to be carried. So what I do before I go on a vacation is I anticipate everything that's going to need to be done over a period of a week or 2 weeks or a month or however long you're going to be off grid. And then I plan for it accordingly. I put the systems and processes in place. I get the right people in the right positions so things can carry on. If there's emergencies or some sort of contingency planning, I build that in. People know where to go. They've got their directions. They've got their instructions. They know what my intent is. And fortunately, things have run pretty smoothly in my absence. And that's because I've done a lot of planning, a lot of systematizing, and attracting and honoring the right people like yourself and other team leaders and people who help in different capacities. And they know exactly what they need to be doing. And if they need to leave for a vacation, then maybe I need to shoulder more of the load, or I put that on another one of our team members. But it doesn't go away. It still needs to be carried, but you build it on the front end so that you can disengage from that on your vacation, on your trip, and actually be there and present with your family and friends and whatever else you have going on. Yeah. This is a little on the extreme side, but I think it proves a point. And the point is, far too often, we talk about it, right? You got to know why you're not doing something, right? Like, are you not doing X because you're really trying to intentionally be present with your family, or you're not doing X because you're just looking for an excuse not to do it, right? And I've had guys within Iron Council at times where they had a daily tactic of running a mile or whatever because they're preparing for a race. And then they're like, oh, I didn't do it. Why? Well, because I was on vacation. And the only question I asked them was, if you would have still did the run, if you would have still got those things in, would it have affected your vacation in a negative or a positive way?
Of course, positively.
Yeah. And all of them are like, yeah, I probably should have ran.
Yeah.
Because it would have been a great way to get up early, feel good about your day. Like, so it's not always like, on vacation, I'm not going to do anything. Like, sometimes you should probably still do those things because you're going to show up better on your vacation if you're still accomplishing certain things and you're getting your journaling in or meditation or whatever some of those things might be for you. So somebody consider.
Yeah, this last trip that I was on, so we had about a week of hunting. So I didn't exercise during that time because we were walking around, we were hiking. That was kind of built into what we were doing, and we were getting up early and going all day and going in the evening. So that didn't make sense.
You didn't want to do leg day before hunting.
Right. But when that component of the trip got done, then I had about 2.5 weeks with just my family. I woke up and I walked down to the park, which is about a quarter mile from where we were staying. And I went and ran around the track. I was doing push-ups and sit-ups. I mean, it wasn't the best workout ever, but it was still something. And I came back and I actually felt good, to your point. There is something else that I do when I go on vacation is I'll usually get up early in the morning. So I did my workouts and I'll come back and I'll jump on my computer and I'll do about 45 minutes to an hour worth of work in the morning before anybody's really up and going. So I'm checking emails, I'm doing correspondence. The beauty of that is that I still get some work in, then I can feel okay about being at the beach all day because all that stuff's taken care of. And also there's another benefit to this. When I come back, it's easier to transition into everything because I didn't let everything stack up for 2 weeks. I managed it periodically on a schedule. And I made a commitment to do that each and every day. So there's some reasons why you may want to build some of that into it, but work it out with your family and make sure you have the timing that works best.
Yeah, cool. All right, Adam Beachy, when you were building Order of Man while still working in the financial planning, did you have any tricks for not getting exhausted or burnt out? Working on building a business while working full time, raising 2 kids with my wife, working out and keeping the house in order leaves me exhausted at the end of the day and struggling to work on my business.
Yeah, I understand that. I wish I could tell you do these 2 or 3 magical things and you won't get exhausted, but that's actually just not the reality of the situation. That's how it is. And it's a season. It's going to stop. And if you can bear down and you can make it through it and you can be tired, then, that's what you make work. There's things you can do. Like if you're super tired, you might just take a 10 to 15 minute nap in the middle of the day. Something that a lot of guys have never done, but I'll tell you, man, that can actually recharge you and get you through the rest of the day. Outside of that, just know that this is what it takes. And if you throw in the towel or you can't hack it or can't hang, well, that's what most men would do. And that's why most men don't have what it is you say you're after, is because they're not willing to do it. Oh, I'm too tired. I couldn't make it work. When I was doing both, I would do a couple of hours in the morning of Order of Man stuff. Then this is before my family would wake up, and I would spend a morning with them. And then I would go into work for my financial planning practice. I would come home, I'd do dinner. And then after the kids went to bed, I'd do another hour to 2 on the Order of Man stuff. So this is what it takes. This is the requirement. And I will also say, because we were talking about this earlier, something had to give. Well, my exercise and my diet and nutrition gave. And I had to be okay with that at that point. And some people might say, well, you're just making an excuse. And maybe I was, but also, I did that for 4 to 6 months and I got back on top of things. So there's season to things. And this is the the balancing act that a lot of men don't understand. They hear the term or talk about this concept of work-life balance. And what they think work-life balance is this perfect homeostatic status of all their responsibilities. I'm going to give equal time and attention to family life and equal time and attention to work and equal time and attention to my own pursuits. And they're trying to find this like perfect balance. That's not work-life balance. In fact, that's not even the definition of balance. Balance is a series of micro adjustments. If we're talking about the physical body, a series of micro adjustments based on external circumstances. So if you're on, for example, a surfboard and you're trying to ride a wave, you're going to feel the wave. You're going to feel the weight of the board. You're going to feel the current and the tide and the ocean and the forces pushing against you. And then you're making hundreds, if not thousands of little micro adjustments in order to keep you on the board and get you to ride that wave. The same thing with life. If my son today breaks his arm, work's done. My workday is over because I'm going to be at the hospital. I'm going to give him time and attention. I'm going to make sure he's doing okay. I'm going to support my wife. I'm going to pick up where maybe she has to slack a little bit because of that situation. It changes. And so I change my approach based on external factors. If you're trying to work two businesses, you got to balance. Something's got to go. Maybe the nutrition has to go. Maybe the exercise has to go. Maybe it's not as much time with the kids. And people say, that's wrong. It's not wrong. It's just a micro adjustment based on external circumstances and the objective that you have. So let's not look at work-life balance as some magical, mystical place where everything is equal, because we're just teeing ourselves up for failure. Instead, let's look at it and think, I'm going to be dynamic. Work-life balance is dynamic. I'm adjusting, I'm pivoting, I'm flexing. Exactly. Yep. And that's what work-life balance is. So here's my final answer for you. Suck it up for 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year, whatever it takes. Be smart about, is what you're doing working? Pivot, adjust where you need to. But yeah, you're going to be tired. That's the price to pay. Or if you don't want to be tired, then don't do that. And just keep living your life the way you want to live it. And that's an answer. You know, that's a direction. You have to decide if you're willing to go that route or not.
James Percival, over the past little bit, I've been trying to identify my circle. This has resulted in trimming the fat, so to speak. I'm also in the very beginning phases of starting my business, so I'm working on relevant business relationships. My question is, during this time, would it be wise to continue allowing new friendships to begin, or should I focus on getting rid of those I don't want in my circle first?
I don't know that I have personally ever identified somebody and said, I'm going to actively eliminate that person from my circle.
You're not intentional with them if that's the case, right? You just,
that's what it is.
I may not put effort into it.
And that's it. And then they just kind of go away. Now there are relationships where I've had to check and establish some boundaries.
Like unhealthy ones or
for sure.
Unhealthy. Yeah.
Of course. But you're talking about building your network. So if it were me, I would spend a lot of time and attention building a network with people that you like, people that are high caliber, people that are achieving in ways that you want to achieve, and realizing that if that's going to be the case, if I'm going to pursue relationships with these individuals, then these other relationships aren't going to get the nurturing that maybe they once did in the past. And maybe that's good. Maybe it's not. You have to evaluate those relationships, because if I'm going all in on building my networking relationships that I don't have any time for my wife and kids, that's a problem. If I'm building these networking relationships and I no longer have as much time for individuals who I would go drink with on Saturday night, that's actually a pretty good scenario. So you have to evaluate it. I don't think that you need to focus on either getting rid of people who aren't healthy for you or work on establishing and building all of these relationships. I think there's a way that you can do both simultaneously. But yeah, I'd be more intentional about building productive relationships than I would eliminating destructive relationships.
And Ryan, I'm assuming in his example, you would make a list right? Like you would say like, hey, these are the 20 relationships that I need to focus on. And
oh, I do that.
Yeah.
We have content management, not content, just
CMS.
contact management systems where there's certain relationships that I have where I'm going to reach out to this individual, or I'm going to send them a gift or send them a note or shoot them a text. So yeah, I'm very deliberate and intentional about the relationships that are going to serve both of us. It's not just a one-way thing. It's a reciprocal relationship. So I've got people on schedule to call or to text or to message. If I'm out and about and I see, I see Tim Kennedy on the cover of Ballistic Magazine, I'm going to take a quick shot, shoot him a text and say, hey man, saw you on this pretty cool. Hope all's well, period. I'm not looking for anything. I'm not trying to game it. I'm just saying, hey man, I care about you. I saw this. I think it's cool. Hope all's well. The end. And that nurtures and fosters a relationship. So yeah, I don't make a list for people I don't want in my circle. That I'm like, okay, well these, intuitively who should and should not be there, but you do need to be intentional about it.
Yeah. By the way, I did get a bunch of guys ping me like, Ryan needs to get Dustin Poirier on the podcast. I'm like,
really? You think?
Cool. Yeah.
Of course I do. We've been working it. I will say a little teaser here for you guys. Michael Chandler and I have been texting. So
cool.
He's coming on in 2 weeks, I believe. I think it's next week he's coming on.
Very cool. That's cool.
Should be good.
All right. Brandon Peterson, what is your favorite wild game recipe?
I don't cook, so I don't know.
I hunt the food.
That's it. I procure I said this on Instagram or something, that I procure my food with my wallet, with lead, or with an arrow. And then my wife cooks it for us. So that's my obligation and responsibility within the dynamic. And let me tell you why. Because some of you guys are really confused on this. Not because I think that's the role of a man.
Smoking. Yeah. Right. A lot of guys love smoking. So they probably just assume Mr. Michler's Traeger in it on a regular basis here. Yeah.
No, I'm not. Mrs. Michler is. Mr. Michler is not. So I'm not saying it because that's how men act. I'm just saying it because I don't take any sense of value or joy in cooking anything. I've tried. I hate it. And guys will say, well, it's because you're not doing it right. Or no, it's because I don't enjoy doing that. And other guys are like, well, there is a lot of pride to be taken in cooking. Yes, I know.
Sure.
I know. Yeah. I agree with that. I believe that. I believe you believe that. I just don't see any value in it. So I'll procure it with my pocketbook, with a bullet or with an arrow. I'll bring it home and my wife will cook it and I will enjoy it. And that's our dynamic. So when you're talking about recipes, I don't know, just cooked.
Right. If Ryan was like the lone survivor, like surviving out in the wilderness, he'd be going straight up Gollum, just raw,
That's how you do it. It's exactly. Now, so that's
how
it.
A man does it. You mean
that's how a man would. It's right. So there is
raw, including chicken,
cooked. Why do you cook your food? What the hell are you talking about?
Are you a pansy? Yeah.
Oh, I will say though, again, because we're on vacation, if you haven't had Axis deer is amazing.
Heard that.
Brandon Lilly, a lot of you guys are familiar with Brandon. He was on our hunt with us.
He takes pride in cooking.
Yeah. And I would never say to him that he is not a man's man. Not only because is that true, but also he might hurt me. So yeah, he was like our unofficial camp cook. Oh man, it was amazing. So Axis deer is amazing. And then I shot a goat on the Big Island of Hawaii. And we ate that. And the goat was a little tough, but then my wife put it in a crock pot and we did goat tacos one night. Holy cow. Amazing. So that's two animals that we harvested in the last month or so that we ate that was delicious.
That's cool. All right, Sean Sailors, how do I prepare my 6-year-old for football starting in August?
I think you're probably doing it. I mean, there's nothing special.
Yeah.
You just play. Teach them how to catch. Teach them how to throw it. Teach them what a route is. Teach them what blocking is. Teach them to protect themselves. I don't know if they're playing tackle or flag at that age. For us, at 6 years old, it would be flag. So teach them what routes are, teach them the point of the game, teach them, run sprints with them, get them lean, get them strong. And then just teach them the dynamics of the game, but just be there and active, toss the football around, show them the different positions. That's actually important, is teach them what's a wide receiver, what's a blocker, what's a passer, what's a runner. I would also suggest that you look at I'm assuming it's a community league. So you look at your community league's rule book, because every league has slightly different variations about how many downs, and can a kid jump or not jump? Can they spin? Like, every league has different variations when it comes to flag football. So get a copy of the rule book, study it, and make sure you equip your kid with the knowledge they need. At 6, it's a little tough. That's going to be like herding cats. They're going to have a good time, but just prepare them as best you can, and just make the biggest thing. Here's the biggest thing. Dad, it's fun. Okay.
Yeah.
It's
especially
fun.
at 6.
It's fun. Yeah. And if it's not fun, you or the coach are failing your kids. And I've been there. I've been the guy who's like, come on, like, it's supposed to be fun. I think you should keep score. I think it should be competitive. I'm not saying that, but it should be fun. Let them learn the game. Let them have friends with, or have good interactions with friends and peers. Let them see how it is to work on a team. Don't let them be poor sports. Like, teach them. But again, it's got to be fun and enjoyable for them, especially at 6.
Yeah. And just make sure if they're not first, they're last.
That's right.
Yeah.
This isn't about fun. This is about winning. It is about winning, but they're not mutually exclusive.
But have fun.
You can have fun while you're winning, and you can have fun to a degree while you're losing. But if you lose, you should be a little upset, and that's okay. Help them have a healthy relationship with failure. Yeah.
I like it. All right. Justin Jelsma, when should we build our new home, Ryan? We have equity and some money saved currently own from the farmland to build on, has electricity and water already, and it's paid for. Geez, sorry, that was a little weird. Held off due to building supplies, but would like to capitalize on low interest rates if possible. Would like to hear your thoughts. So building costs up, interest rates really low. When should we build?
So I'm not going to tell you when you should build. I'm just going to tell you some factors here, because I don't know. I don't know what your goals are. I don't know where you live. I don't know what money you have. Like,
you have.
I don't know any of that stuff.
Yeah.
So here's some factors to consider. You've already considered a couple of them. So you've got building costs are high right now. Interest rates potentially low. Where's your money now? Is it in the market, and is it doing really well? Because if it's doing really well, then why would you want to pull money out of there to pay low interest rates when you could be getting a high return in an investment, for example? How much money do you have? Can you put 20% down? And should you finance it more than that? Because if you put 20% down, then you can void mortgage insurance. If you can afford to put more down, should you? Or should you keep that in an investment fund set aside and just make the minimum payments? Should you do a 15-year note, a 30-year note? There's a lot of things to consider here. But building is probably, especially if you have, here's another consideration. What's your housing situation now? Are you guys satisfied and happy with where you are? Is it too small? Is it big enough? Are you considering having a child and now you need something bigger? Like, there's so many variables here that anything I told you would just, you'd have to take with a grain of salt, because I don't know. But there are a lot of factors to consider. If I were in that situation, I probably wouldn't be, if I could, I probably wouldn't be building right now, assuming that I have a space where my family and I are relatively comfortable and all of our needs are met.
Yeah. We are, I think you know this, Ryan, like we were getting ready to build this summer, and the building costs altogether, it was increased over 100,000.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Just in cost of building materials. So we're waiting.
Right. So take the money,
because we
set it aside.
This is a second home. We're like, we'll just wait and kind of see where it goes.
Yeah. Take the money, set it aside, build up some reserves, earn some interest on that money. And in 6 months or 12 months or whatever, And I know your guys' housing situation. You guys are in a great place. Like the kids are taken care of. The neighborhood's good. Everything's fine. We have a lot of things that we want. And that's a beautiful thing. That's a nice luxury that most of us have. But it also can be a trap because then we buy a bigger home and we buy a newer car and we go on more exotic vacations. And what if you didn't do that? What if you just stayed where you were? What if you drove the car that was 10 years old? What if instead of going on that exotic vacation, you did the vacation that was just a tier down, still fun, still enjoyable, but didn't break the bank? We have a hard time doing that as consumers.
Yeah. Paul Nurkhorn, Ryan and Kipp, what is your favorite way to drink coffee?
That's easy. I don't drink coffee. Period.
Discipline go, baby.
That's
don't
right.
need coffee.
Water. I drink it with water. Water minus the coffee.
Minus the dirt.
Yes.
And I drink it cold.
That's right. Do you drink coffee?
No.
I mean, I'm friends with the Black Rifle guys, and I tell them, I joke with them and say,
I want to drink coffee just because they're so cool.
I don't. They make you want to. I don't even like the smell of coffee. I smell it. I'm like, gross. Who wants to drink that?
I'm the same. I walk down that aisle in a grocery store. I'm like,
ooh, it doesn't smell good to me.
And it's weird because then there's commercials like, oh, waking up to Folgers. I'm like, oh, that's a horrible way to wake up. I don't want to smell that. Yeah.
You know what I want to wake up to is bacon. Forget about coffee. I just want sizzling bacon. I want to hear it. I want to smell it. I don't want to smell coffee. But
juice.
Black Rifle, they're my favorite company that I actually don't do any business with. So I like those guys. I like what they do. The guys that tune into what we're doing seem to like Black Rifle, but I know there's a bunch of other options out there. So
yeah,
you're barking up the wrong tree on that one.
Yeah, we're the last guys to be asking about coffee.
Yep.
All right, Bob Ross, what techniques do you use to compartmentalize stress, work or home related stress? Away from your family? Do you allow them to see some stress, or do you attempt to keep them mostly away from this part of your emotions? I kind of like this question. I struggle with this.
Yeah, they need to see that you're stressed out. Well,
but it goes too far, right? Because then I'm stressed and then I'm like a complete ass, right?
Yeah, but so don't be like that.
But that's me acting out of my emotions, not expressing my stress, maybe.
Well, there's two things, and this is what a lot of people don't understand, is that there's the emotion, the way you're feeling about things, and then there's the response to your emotion. Just because you're angry doesn't mean you need to go punch a wall or somebody else.
Yeah.
Those are two separate things. They're not combined. So you're angry. One option is you could punch a wall or somebody else. Another option is you could disengage from people because you're angry and you don't want to talk to anybody right now. That's an option. Another option is you could analyze why you're angry and try to figure out what you're so upset about and see if there's anything within your power to be able to move yourself in the right direction. That's another type of response. So there's all sorts of different ways that you can respond to it. But I think you probably ought to be having conversations like this with your kids. I think they need to know that, hey, dad gets upset. Dad gets stressed out. These are conversations we talk about at the dinner table. Hey, I had a bad day today because X, Y, and Z, and here's what I did to fix it. So if you're limiting the exposure to stress and the reality of life, then you don't have as many opportunities to equip your children with what they need to deal with stress when they
scenarios.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, when you say, should I let them see my stress? What you're actually saying is, should I let them see the response to my stress? Because you can't see stress. It's a feeling. It's not tangible, but the response is tangible. So the answer to your question, should I let them see the response to my stress, is yes, as long as it's healthy.
Yeah, as long as it's the right response. Yeah.
Correct. Because if it's unhealthy, then the answer to that question would be no, you don't want to show them an unhealthy response to your emotions. But if it's healthy, ironic. Yeah, you want to show them that. Yeah. And then you want to explain it.
Well, I find it interesting that that's probably why we hide it, right? Is because we're not dealing with these things in a healthy way. And so we're unwilling to to show our children our stress or communicate it because we know we're handling it incorrectly.
That's right. And it's very selfish too, to do that because you're so worried. And I get it. There's things to be stressed about as a man.
Yeah.
So it's okay to experience that. People say, "Oh, I shouldn't be stressed." Really?
Why not?
You're landing this huge client, or you're trying to get this big deal, or to start the business, or you don't think you should be stressed about that? To me, that says you care about it. Or you're going to do a presentation. I shouldn't be afraid. I'm going to be presenting in front of all these people. Why wouldn't you be afraid? Like, doesn't that mean you care about it and you want to perform well and you want to do a good job to be able to influence people positively? To me, that says you actually care about it. Now, how do you respond to it? If you're afraid, do you cower and run and botch it? Or do you say, okay, I'm a little nervous about this, and so I'm going to study and I'm going to research and I'm going to practice and I'm going to get good at this so that I can achieve my desired outcome? Emotion, feeling, and response to your emotion and feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. I like this. A couple of weeks ago when I did a solo AMA, I mentioned something, and my mom actually reached out to me because she listened to the episode. Now we have 2 listeners, your mom and then my mom now.
Right.
So we doubled our numbers.
Yeah. How was that?
Yeah. Well, it was funny because I can't remember the question, but I said something about my parents never argued in front of me. And so when I was young and I got married and I got in a fight with my wife, I thought like, this didn't happen, right? Like something's broken because we're arguing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I never saw that in my life. I just had this la understanding that like, if you love someone, if they're the right person, blah, blah, even that has its whole loaded meaning. But regardless, the right person, you should never argue. And my mom actually reached back out to me. She's like, I'm so sorry. Like, I never thought that would have been valuable. You know what I mean? For you kids to see that while growing up.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, actually it would have been,
a healthy disagreement.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So
yeah, I think we shelter our children from a lot that maybe we shouldn't shelter them so much from. And sometimes you might be in an argument, for example, with your wife, and your kids come in. It's like, why are you arguing? And what do you say? We're not arguing. And then you shut everything down.
Yeah. Get out of here. Yeah.
Instead of saying, oh, we're arguing because we see it differently and we both care about this, whatever it is we're discussing. And so we're trying to come to a conclusion and a consensus so we can move forward. That's
and then you're like
healthy.
And then you're like, so here's the deal. Do you agree with mommy or daddy?
That's right. Oh, you agree with mommy? Let's bring the other kids in and see if we can skew the poll here.
Totally. And you're grounded.
That's right. So right. I think we can do a lot better job including our children in the entirety of our relationships versus just the good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. Well, and puts the heat on us, right? It's like, hey, do it right then, share with your kids and do it right because they need to learn from you.
Well, and that's a good point. If you're hiding something, whether it's conversations you're having or behavior that you're engaged in, isn't that a pretty good indicator that maybe there's something not quite right with the behavior or thought process you have right now? Yeah.
In the spirit of hiding, Byron Pierce, his question, how pornography affects marriage. We've had several guys post about the relationship problems due to porn this past week on the Order of Man Facebook group. You can join us there, by the way, orderofman.com or facebook.com/group/Order of Man.
That's right.
But effects of marriage. Thoughts?
Yeah, there's a lot of great resources on this. Fightthenewdrug.org, I believe, is the name of the website, but they've got a lot of good information on how it negatively impacts relationships. But look, if you're objectifying women, I mean, it seems to me that it's pretty self-explanatory how that might impact your perspective and your view of your wife and your role and her role and what you guys do together. But it also diminishes the love and the deep meaning that you have in being a protector and a provider and a presider, her husband. So I would definitely check out some of those resources. But I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory how you're going to diminish the relationship with your wife and your view of her. You're not going to have a healthy perspective towards sex and what she wants and what you want and how you both can be fulfilled, it's just not a healthy thing. So you got to be very, very careful, especially when it's so easy to get access to all of this stuff. You know, again, it comes to hiding. You know, if you're hiding it, well, then is there something off about that? Probably, because you know she would be negatively impacted by that. So if you don't think that's the case, then go talk to her about it, and you can return a report and let us know how that goes. But because there's a bunch of guys who are like, well, pornography is not bad. Okay.
Totally.
Talk to your spouse about it. Well, no, because okay. Well, you got to evaluate that.
Here's the part that, let me ask you this, because I find this interesting. I've used this analogy of, well, how would you feel, right? Like, how would you feel if your wife's like watching porn and a bunch of other guys or whatever, right? And you find out about it, and then. And I've heard actually guys, their response to that question is like, oh, that wouldn't bother me. And so then part of me goes, is that weird? Or am I weird that I'd be overly jealous and kind of pissed off about it? Right. Or do you think
not only
that's just
that
an excuse?
No, not only that, wouldn't you feel inferior? Like, am I not doing it?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I don't feel inferior, but you know, whatever.
Well, and I think we as men,
just joking.
Well, no, I think we as men put up those walls and we say, that wouldn't bother me. Really? Like you wouldn't feel inferior, or you wouldn't feel like she isn't attracted to you, or she's not getting what she needs, and that's why she's going out here. You wouldn't feel like that? No. I think you probably would, but
yeah. I mean, you lay it down simple, right? It's like, okay, she's choosing sexual activity with said source versus you.
Yeah. Well,
that's bothersome.
There's another problem here too, is that looking at pornography and jacking off is way easier than engaging in sex with your wife. The work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what are you conditioning outside of the sexual side of things? What are you conditioning your mind to pursue? The things that are easy, right? You're after cheap thrills. You're after the thing that's easy. You don't want to put forth the effort or the work. And if it is work, you're just going to find the easier solution. So I don't know the data or the statistics or the research to support that. That's, I guess, just maybe anecdotal or just a hunch that I have. But I do think that if you're taking the easy way out, then that's probably going to apply to other facets of your life. And when things get challenging or hard, or you have to exert yourself at any level, you might be conditioning your mind to avoid doing that, because there are easier ways to do everything. So.
Yeah, I would argue, and I don't know the numbers of this either, but I'd probably argue that the majority of ED cases are actually tied to a large amount of pornography usage.
Yeah, agreed.
All right. I always enjoy our good pornography questions. It's always fun when Ryan throws out. I feel like such a kid. You mentioned jack off, and I can't help but almost giggle.
He's like giggling and smiling.
I'm so immature.
Grow up, Kipp.
He's a jack off.
Grow up.
Sorry, man. It's so embarrassing. That's why we always save these for when you're.
Is it embarrassing though?
I don't know. I feel funny talking about it. But
I don't know if it's
maybe. I don't know.
Maybe, but like this is.
I mean, I think it needs. I mean,
we've all looked. Look, we've all looked at porn. You know, we've all jacked up. Like these are things that we've all done. I've actually talked about this even with my wife, of like women with OBGYNs. You know, it's like what an awkward, uncomfortable, embarrassing scenario, right?
Yeah.
And we were talking about it not too long ago, and I said, I wonder if it's just like the mechanic looks under the hood of a car, and it's like, and it's more of that for an OBGYN anymore. Yeah. Like this isn't embarrassing. Yeah. It's just like looking at the hood of a car and seeing what's going on. I've got a friend who is.
Your alternator's in a different location than the other car was.
I've got a friend who's an OBGYN, and I've talked with him about it. Like, why did you want to do this? What, you know, cause of course he gets made fun of and ridiculed and everything else. I'm actually really curious. I'm like, why? Like, I would never personally want to do that. So why you? And so I don't get embarrassed by this stuff. These are the kind of conversations that we need to have. The ones that people are afraid to have are the ones that we actually probably should be having.
Yeah, I have a friend that's I trained with him actually. He's a plastic surgeon. He's we call him the boob doctor. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's the same thing.
Same thing.
We all can't help but like kind of
right.
He gets to
look at boobs all day, you know, and at some point he's probably like, boobs are boobs. Like I've seen them all, in different positions, seen them all different sizes.
Yeah.
Who cares? That's probably what he's thinking.
Right. All right, what were we doing? We're answering.
You gonna be
questions.
okay, Kip?
Yeah,
like you look a little flushed there and everything.
Yeah, I'm a little embarrassed.
All right, let's take a couple more.
I can't believe you're talking about masturbation.
She knows. She knows what you were doing in the bathroom when you were little. She knows all about it.
You just like destroyed it all. You just told, we all have looked at porn and we've all have masturbated. My mom's probably thinking, my 40-year-old son.
No, Kip has never done any of that.
Never. Yeah.
Never. He never touched himself inappropriately. Okay, sure, Mom. Well, now you know, funny. Mom, just in case you didn't.
Yeah. Sorry, Mom. All right. Nathan Vander.
Nathan, what's Nathan have to say?
How can I help a friend who refuses to help himself? Man, well, we're going to read it, but we get these a lot. He wants a girlfriend, but won't make the effort to get one. He wants to have a better life, but won't make any life changes to make it happen. I'm really his only friend and feel obligated to pull him through life so he doesn't feel alone and go out of my way to help him feel better about himself. Any suggestions on what I can do more or steps I could take to make him step out of his shell and go seek out the best of his life?
Yeah. First, whatever you're currently doing is not helping him. I want you to wrap your head around that for a second, because you think you're helping him by serving him, by being there, by giving him all the answers, by pulling him along, by like forcing and coercing and manipulating him to get him to do this stuff. You think you're helping. You're actually not. You're hamstringing your friend, because at the slightest sign of adversity, or if you're not around, he's not going to be able to know how to handle himself. We do the same things with our children. I want to make sure they're comfortable and they're in this little bubble, and I don't want them to be exposed to any of this stuff. And it's like, no, you're hurting your kids by doing that. If you really cared about your friend or your children, you would expose them to some of that stuff and let them figure it out. The other day, we were working on a project outside, and my oldest, I said, hey, bring that beam down here. It was in the barn. I said, bring it around the yard. I need you to bring that beam over here. He's like, it's too heavy. And I said, well, figure it out. Because I need it down here. I'm working, and yeah, maybe it's too heavy for you to pick up the way you're thinking of, but I need you to figure it out and get it down here. And so he was taking a little bit. He's like, all right. And he's been out of shape and everything. And I went upstairs in the barn and I looked, because he was taking a while, and I'm like, what is he doing up there? So I went up there, and he had grabbed these two little carts, like benches that you sit on in the garage. He had grabbed them and he had loaded it on there, and he was pushing it. I'm like, perfect. Yep. He figured it out, and he got it down there, and it was no problem, but I had to say, figure it out.
Yeah.
I didn't, when he said it's too heavy, I didn't say, oh, okay, why don't you sit down and do nothing and let me do it? I said, no, here's the task. It needs to be accomplished, and you're going to be the one to do it. So figure it out. And he did figure it out. Now, we've been doing that for the last 13 years. And so he understands when Dad says figure it out, that's exactly what he means. And he also knows that when I say do X, Y, and Z, that's what needs to be done. I don't care how you do it, just get it done. It's the same thing with your friend. You're trying to rescue and pull your friend along. And what was the very first sentence of the question again, Kip?
The very first, how can I help my friend who refuses to help himself?
Get the hell out of his way for a minute. Stop shielding him from everything. Stop pulling him along. Stop, through your behavior, telling them that it's okay not to pursue the things that he's interested in. You're interested in a girlfriend, but you don't want to go where the girls are. That's not okay. And I'm not going to do it for you. You can't help somebody who doesn't want to help themselves.
Yeah.
And I said it on Instagram or Twitter a while back. I said, you can't rescue somebody who's not willing to participate in their own rescue. And when I hear questions like this, that's what people want to do. And it's noble. You want to serve. You want to help. You even said it yourself. I feel obligated to help in some capacity, in some way. Good. If you really think that that's the case, then you need to let him flounder and struggle a little bit. And occasionally, maybe you throw a lifeline, but you need to help him build some strength by getting him out there, getting involved, letting him see consequences of it. And when he's ready, hopefully he'll know where to turn. But that's on him. You can't do that for him. It's unfortunate. It sucks because you see the potential in people, but it's the reality. I mean, we run into the same thing just societally, where we see these people who are homeless or hooked on drugs or just going down a dangerous and destructive path. And we think, well, if I pay their house for them, then it'll be okay. Not really. I mean, they might have a place to sleep that night or for a week, and then they're going to fall back into their own patterns and they're going to create more harm and self-destruct. Or you give them a bunch of money and it's like, well, what do they do with that? They go buy more drugs and they do their thing. So I think there are opportunities to serve. Sure, I'm not saying that. But our traditional way of doing it, where we just do everything for people and we assume that we're their savior, is a very dangerous way to do it. It doesn't actually serve anybody.
Well, and what's interesting too is like, even look at the language that we use, because and I'm not criticizing what you just said, Ryan, but like that's the term we use, like be their savior. But even in that example, the savior requires other people to do something. Right. Like we even use that analogy of like teach a man to fish, right? It's like they still had to be at the lake to go fish to even learn how to fish, let alone if you just gave it to them, right? Like these people have to want to do it. They're just not ready, right? And we talk about this. There's some strategy to see if people are ready, to see if they're willing to get on that path. And we can be, of course, the importance of being a lighthouse is super critical, but it's just not the way humans work.
Yeah, it isn't. And we need to acknowledge that and recognize that. And what I typically say is invite people into your circle. And, you don't go pick them up. You don't go operate in their circle. You invite them into your circle. And that's a good litmus test. If they're ready, then they will exert themselves. They will come into your circle. They will push. They will try to improve. So we welcome people with open arms. I mean, that's what we're doing here in Order of Man. It's like we have the Facebook group, we have our social media accounts, we have the Brotherhood. Like I don't actually go pursuing people. And even people ask me questions. Hey, Ryan, I have questions about this and this. What can you do for me? I don't, if you ever email me that question about the Iron Council, I'll tell you right now, I do not, and I will not answer that question. What can you do for me? What can I do for you? What can you do for yourself? Yeah. That's the question I'll ask you back. It depends. What are you willing to do for yourself? And I would say that probably 70 to 80% of the people who I ask that question to don't respond back. But the 20% are like, well, here's what I'm willing to do. I say, then welcome, join us, do that, and you will be served.
Yep. I love that. I mean, we changed, that's the survey questions that we put out in the IC this past quarter was, get some feedback. And then the other question was, what can you do to make your experience better? What can you do to make your team better? Right.
And we've never asked that before.
No, I love the fact that you added it, because I'm really interested. And that's still valuable. Like it's valuable for us to see that and go, oh, a lot of these guys think that they could do this. Okay, well then what can we do from a leadership perspective to help enable them to do those things? To
facilitate that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
To facilitate it. That's valuable, right?
100%.
And just to drive this point home a little bit more, is like we did this Utah meetup this past weekend, and I got a couple. It was kind of funny. I got a couple people reach in saying, "Oh, I told my husband he should come, right? Or I told someone else they should come." And I said, "Don't have them come. If they don't want to come, if they don't see the value of coming to the event, I don't want them there."
Of course.
Right? I don't want some guy there because my wife, coerced me into coming and because that's not even the right persona or that's not the mindset of an individual that I would even want there.
Right.
Because that's a negative mindset. They're not even in the right place to contribute to the conversation.
100%. Yeah. I agree. So be careful of rescuing people or attempting to rescue them. Invite them into your circle, stand strong, make yourself capable as best you can. And then people will see that and be attracted. The right people will see it and be attracted to it.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, Kipp. Let's wrap things up for today, man.
Yep. Sounds good. I mean, we covered a couple things, but I think the key thing coming out of our conversation today is, band with us, right? There's some, well, I don't want to dive into it too much, but there's some, blockage from a social media perspective, right, happening. And if you're committed to what we're talking about, you see the value in what's being communicated, band with us. And that looks like a number of things, right? That's connecting with Ryan Michler on Instagram and Twitter at Ryan Michler. That's joining us on the Facebook group. That's joining us in the Iron Council. That's sharing this message. That's sharing a podcast episode. That's sharing the YouTube video, whatever that is. That's what it looks like to band with us and promote what we're doing.
That's right. That's right. So make sure you do that. As I've mentioned over the past week or so, my son and I are coming out with a new podcast called Man in the Making. So if you want to get early notification on that, head to orderofman.com/man in the making. And we'll let you know in the next couple of weeks when we launch that thing, which will be pretty exciting.
Cool. I'm excited too. This will be awesome.
All right, guys, we'll let you get going. We'll be back on Friday. Until then, go out there, take action, and become the man you are meant to be.